Take responsibility for everything, because that's the only way that you can change your reality, right? I wanted to share that with you because when I teach something, I teach from what I have experienced and learned and been through myself. I don't talk about things I don't know about or haven't experienced, right? 2025, at the end of 2024, how was your year, right? How do you look at the year in the past? What have you learned? How have you grown? Now, I would like to go say always, like when we're looking forward to 2025 and the things you want to do, basically what you focus on decides your outcome, right? So whatever you focus on is going to decide the outcome of your year. So if you want to achieve something specific, you gotta have to put your focus on that and your time on that, right? So, but here's some key points when you do that. First of all, focus on what you have. What tools do you have? What finances? What capacity? What lessons? What intelligence? What knowledge? What do you have to work with, right? And when you focus on what you have, you're able to find solutions to build on that and move forward with that. A lot of people make the mistake, and I've done that too, and most of us have done this, right? Where we focus on what we don't have. And when we focus on what we don't have, we get stuck in a negative pattern. And it's very hard to move forward because it's always like, oh, but I need this, I need that. And if only I had this, and if only I had that, then I could do this. And so I'm really like in between. And then we spend a lot of time planning and talking about and preparing. And we find excuses for not doing. And a lot of our inabilities to get things done, the procrastination, actually lies in the fact that we're focusing on what we don't have rather than what we have. Because if you focus on what you have and you start writing that down, you will actually realize how much you already have that you can build on and go on with into 2025 in order to make it a highly successful year. Second thing to really, really important to think is that what can you control, right? What is within your control? Focus on those points, right? Because what is within your control is something that you can change and alter and do things with, and you are responsible for that outcome. Now, most of the time we start worrying and thinking about things we can't control, and that makes us timid, and that keeps us back from being courageous and going forward because we're focusing on what we don't control, and that's fear-based because what you can't control, you're going to fear. It's going to make you uneasy, it's going to make you worried, it's going to make you stressed. So a great way of moving forward is actually just to focus on what you can control. Now, if you're going to go to a meeting with someone, an investor or a boss or a leader or anything, now, if you focus on your talents and what you can bring, and only what you will bring and how you will be, then you will be able to perform your best. If on the other hand, you focus on what would they be thinking, what would they be saying, how will they react, what if they say yes, what if they say no, whatever. Well, those things are out of your control. And by thinking and focusing on those things, you create so many subfractions that you can't deal with. And then you become anxious, stressed, depressed, whatever, right? And then you are more likely to postpone or come in non-confident, right? You lose your confidence because it's out of your control. So if you focus on what you can control, you will be much more in self-control and you will be shining as the bright star you are, right? Now, also a very important thing is that when we're thinking about the future, now 2025, it's okay to make plans and goals and all that stuff. However, it is very important to begin by focusing on the balance between the present moment where you are presently and the future where you're going, right? The direction you will go there, the milestones, the steps you're going to go to get there, right? So focus on the present and how that present can evolve to the next step of the future, right? One thing that most of us tend to do, I've done it too, you have done it, you know it, we have all done it, we have focused on the past very often. our experience from the past. Oh, I tried that didn't work. I did that didn't work. I tried investing, I tried crypto, I did. Well, you are not in that past anymore, and you have lessons learned from what you have done. And it's a new time, a new year, a new opportunity. You are a new person. Every time you have an experience, you change your neuron pathways, and therefore you become a new person. You are not the same person you were last year, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, right? So do not judge yourself by your past. Judge yourself by where you are in the present and where you're going in the future. Sometimes it may help to look back just to see who you were at that time, and then you can see the line, how it goes upwards to where you are in the present, right? And then you can look back and think, wow, I moved that far. And as soon as you realize that you have moved that far from the past, then you can just close the door on that past, let it go, right? Be in the present and consider the near immediate future, not the far ahead future. We're not starting 2025 in January by thinking about December. We might have a goal for December 2025, but we're thinking about what are we going to do in January, in February, at max, maybe March, if you're doing quarterly for big companies and big business, right? But for yourself personally, just think about what am I going to do week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, right? Of January. Present into the future, not the past, right? And this is all based on having a successful year, is basically based on having a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. Because you're having a growth mindset, you are able to take changes, you are able to move forward, you get confidence in your ability because your mindset is driving you forward towards success. I can share a little story here actually, well, I was to say that because when you have growth mindset, you take responsibility for everything in your life, every failure, every success, you take responsibility, right? We have a tendency to blame everybody else for our failures, and often when we get like platitude, we done well, we're like too meek, and we're like, oh, I can't take responsibility. Just take responsibility. If you did well, great, you did effing well. Pat yourself on the shoulder and say, great job, right? Great job, Dan, for me, right? If you effed up, right? Take responsibility. Look yourself in the mirror and say, well, I did that. You might have another reason. I don't know, that was because of them, but you brought yourself in that situation, right? You brought yourself into that situation or into that relationship, into that business partnership, whatever. You brought it upon yourself. And when you take responsibility, then the great thing happens because now you have choice. You can do something about the problem. That means you have decisive power. You have self-control again. You have courage. Now you can move forward, which is why I say growth mindset versus fixed mindset. That is based on taking responsibility for everything, right? So it comes down to, are you a victim or a victor, right? You want to be a victor, not a victim. Forget victim mentality. It's gone, it's past. It didn't help you in the past. It's not going to help you in the future. Definitely not going to help you today. Now, a little bit of myself that I can share, for instance, that I had this huge problem in 24 where one of my companies became in heavy financial problems, right? And we were behind with our tax payments, etc. And the tax system wanted to do a foreclosure on us. And at that time, we didn't have the money to pay what they wanted us to pay, which was quite a significant amount. And I called tax and said, can we make a negotiation? And they said, no, we already sent you for foreclosure. We will not negotiate. You pay or you die, right? That's the thing. You pay, your company dies. It goes out of business, right? And I had a viable company, a really good company that I worked hard for over the years, right? 3 years I worked on building up. So I was not willing to go that route, right? But I had to look in the mirror and say, well, there's only one person who's going to help me, and that's me, right? There's only one person that can change it, that's me. No one else. It's not going to come a prince on a white horse galloping and save the day, right? When you're facing the dragon, you're going to have to pull your sword and figure out what you're going to do about it. And in this case, I said, well, what can I do? call my bank. I called them bang and I said, well, I have this problem, blah, blah, blah. Tax wants to do a foreclosure on me. Can you forward me the money? Can I borrow the money? And they said, well, in that given situation, and what you're facing, we don't think it's a good time to invest in your company and put those money forward. So no, we can give you a much smaller amount, what you need, but then you're personally liable for it. Okay, so that was no solution because I had 14 days to meet this demand, right? Second option, I went right away to my auditor, my accountant auditor, and I said, hey, look at my company. This is what I have. You know my company better than I. You know the figures and the stats. What can we do? What can you do? And he right away said, well, I think you're having a viable company. You need to do some changes. You need to cut down your expenses. We need to save up for the taxes and need to be paid in time, all that stuff. And I said, okay, so what do we do? He said, well, let me try to negotiate with the tax office. So he calls tax and he gets the same story as me, like, pay or die, right? There's no. And he said, well, I don't know what to do. We can look at the accounting, how much you can save, how much you can invoice, what you can sell off, what you can do maybe, but hey, I have no good news. And I said, well, there must be a way. There must be some way to fight the tax office. We can't just let them make people unemployed. I have employees. I have people that are dependent on me. I have customers. It's important for nature and then the environment and everything what I do. What can we do about this? And he said, well, I have one more solution, try a lawyer, right? So he called a legal company nearby that he knows well. We spoke to the head honcho, the owner of the company, and he said, well, in this situation today, tax is very hard. It's either you pay or you die. They're closing company right and left. They have a record year of closing companies every month. So there's no pardon there, he said, nothing to do. And he said, however, he ended with saying, I'm not the real expert on tax things. There's another guy in the next city that also works for us. You could try him, ask him if he has some other ways to deal with this, right? And well then, right away I said to my accountant, well, let's call this dude. We called him, didn't answer, was unavailable that day, right? And I was like, oh, yeah. So my accountant said to me, well, Dan, I think you're dead in the water. Let's try to meet next week, figure out how we can minimize your personal losses from this bankruptcy. And I went out to my car and I sat down there and I was like, screw this, you know. And I was like, damn, all these years, everything wasted. I was about it. And then I was like, are you a warrior? And I had my friend in the car and he looked at me and he said, Dan, you don't give up. I never seen you give up before. That's not my image of you. You're like, are you going to give up? I looked at him and I was like, well, let me just put you at the real situation right now. We just done. And the only option is that guy, maybe, to hear what he has to say, this other lawyer, right? And so I looked at him and this rang in my back of my head is, are you a victor or a victim? And I was like, all right, go for broke. Started the car, drove to this lawyer's office, walked in, sat down, said, I'm here to meet this guy. He doesn't know I'm coming. I'll wait until he has time, right? And the secretary was looking at me, he's like, well, I don't know. I don't see any time today. Well, I will, he's in a meeting now. I'll get back to you later and see, just hang around a little bit. We'll see what we can do. And then just as he's finished that, the guy comes walking out. I said, oh, I just had a cancellation. And then he looks over and it's like, I said, well, these guys were actually interested in talking to you. And lo and behold, he had a 30 minutes opening. We got in. I sat down. I explained my situation. I told him, I'm going to fight for this. You might be my last hope right now, but I'm going to find some other solution. Do you have any options for me in this situation? And he looked over, and he is a lawyer who specializes in tax and actually contracts for tax as well. And he right away said, well, there's a reconstruction plan, but that would demand that you sit down over this next week now, work really hard to come up with a complete Excel plan balance sheet that shows everything, how we can cut down, how we can pay it, show that it's viable, that you have a company, and you're probably going to have to take a salary cut, he said, and you're probably going to have to spend less, and you're probably going to have to look at the couple of years to pay this off, and it's not going to be easy, but I think it's doable, right? So, hey, I got hope. I went home. I banged those things out over the weekend. I worked on Excel file. I called some friends that were good with business finances. I asked them, what do you have? What should I put in my Excel sheet? How should I put this up? What can you give me? And they gave me advice. I filled it out. I went back to him, right? We went with this to court, and the court found in our favor and put tax aside and said, this company is a good, viable company. They can pay it off. We have a reconstruction plan. We worked on that the whole spring and the summer. And we had again in the fall another meeting with the court to prove that our plan was standing up, that we could pay off, and we won the case, right? So my story is here. I was facing hardship. I was facing debt foreclosure, right? The first people I spoke to, a specialist, all told me, you're dead in the water. But if you take responsibility, you keep moving forward. You take responsibility, say, this is my responsibility, therefore, I'm the only one who can change it. Then you go forward. Then you feel bolstered by confidence, by courage, and you get the power to move forward, right? And then is that this thing, are you a victim or are you a victor? I want to be a victor. I don't want to be a victim. Do you? No. We want to be victors. So we need to take control. And when we take control and we start doing something, once you start motion, you tend to stay in motion, right? Basic physics, right? And object motions tend to stay in motion until it meets an obstacle or go out of action. So move forward, right? So focus decides outcome, right? What do I have? And that things, it was like, I focused on what I have. Already clients, already business, what was safe. Cut away all the unsafe businesses. Focused on the best clients that gave the most profit, right? Not on what I didn't have, right? I focused on what I could control, what was within my control, chasing the balance. I had to let go of one of my office employees to cut down on the service, right? I had to take a little lower salary myself. I had to face a parent scan. I had to have a cheaper car for myself in the business, right? I had to cut down on some of the things I would like to expand with, right? But those were the things I could control, and I changed that, right? I used more subcontractors and employees because I didn't want to hire employees more. While I kept the ones I have, except one from the office, but I did the other ones to subcontractors because that way, if I didn't have work, I didn't have to pay them, right? I could let them go, and they were fine with that. And I made a good balance between my present moment every week, financials, and what the future was going to be. And my future was my Excel sheet, right? Following that plan, and that worked. I didn't focus on the past year, I focused on where I was today. And every day I went to work with, that's a goal, that's a goal. And here now at the end of 24, I had that battle and I won the battle. Now I have a plan, it's going great. We're above the plan, we're doing better. But in the beginning of the year, I was dead certain facing bankruptcy. Today, I'm looking forward to a great 2025. And 2025 is now open for much more opportunities than 2024 was. And I am a better person. I'm a better business leader. I'm a better business coach, leadership coach, because I learned a lot more as well. So I wanted to share that with you because when I teach something, I teach from what I have experienced and learned and been through myself. I don't talk about things I don't know about or haven't experienced, right? So be future fit for 2025 by following these things. Focus decides outcome. Focus on what you have, not on what you don't have, right? Focus on what you can control, not what you can't. And balance yourself between the present and the future. Don't focus on the past, right? Growth mindset versus fixed mindset. You want to be in the growth mindset because it gives you confidence, it gives you courage, and it gives you the ability, and it makes you sleep good at night. Take responsibility for everything because that's the only way that you can change your reality, right? Every day, choose to be a victim or a victor. I hope you choose to be a victor and stand up go through it. Be confident. I believe in you. Keep following. Show me a like. Punch a like below on this video if you like it. Please follow and keep updated with 2024. I'm really looking forward to see you guys in 2025. And don't be shy to comment. See you guys.